And Jesus said, "The miracle I do in my Father's name speaks for me." The preoccupation of the ordinary individual related to the family traditions is a commonplace as well as in the earthly endeavors in which they usually lend themselves, exalting the conversational position that distinguish their personalities. However, in true life, no one is known for similar processes. Each spirit brings with him the vivid history of his own acts, and only by his own actions and achievements is he known for his merits or demerits. With this disclosure, we do not wish to affirm that the Word is a privy of the indisputable advantages. Nevertheless, it is imperative to comprehend that the verbs have tremendous potentials, which we receive by the infinite mercy as a divine resource. It is indispensable to realize that we are achieving with this gift from the internal being. In that respect, the affirmation of Jesus is dressed in the imperishable beauty. What would we think of our Savior, who would institute such regulations for humanity without sharing its difficulties and impediments? Jesus Christ initiated his divine mission among peasants and laborers. He lived among irritable doctrines of law and in rebellious sinners. He walked among the sick and the afflicted. He ate stale bread with the humble fishermen and fulfilled his saintly task amongst two thieves. What more can we ask for? If you long for an easy life and a distinguished position in this world, remind yourself of the Master. Pause and think. Now with this, I've always liked this because it reminds us that when we're spoken to or something comes up, we have to think, or our thoughts come through with us before we say things, so that we make sure that we are correct, understanding, and know. Now tonight we have a speaker from Miami, Suzana Simoes, who's a dear friend to all of us. A lot of us know her well. She's been very big, very much a person for the Spiritist movement down here in Florida and also around the United States. She's well known, but she's always been a dear friend to us. And her topic tonight is about thoughts and wills. So let's welcome her in Suzana Simoes. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. It's so good to be here. Happy New Year. It's still January, so I think I still can say that. And we're going to talk a little bit about Happy New Year. But first, I want to thank Carla for her patience, because she's been trying to bring me here since, I think, August of last year or something like that. And we had to reschedule maybe 3 or 4 times because my life is crazy. And but I made it, so very good. Very good. So we have the text in Portuguese here, but I'm speaking in English. I did bring it in English for myself. So when I say Happy New Year, right, and we say that a lot to one another, I always think, what is it that people mean when they are wishing a happy new year to somebody? Are they um, wishing that the new year is going to be different than the previous year? Things are going to change somehow for better, right? So from December 31st to January 1st, nothing changes, right? Nothing at all. Whatever problems were there on December 31st, they remain on January 1st. Wherever challenges we had, they remain with us. So why do we say that? Or what does that mean exactly? And so perhaps what we are hoping and wishing one another is that we are new in the new year, so that by renewing ourselves, then things can feel different, because we are in a planet of trials and expiations, and it's going to take a long time for things to be any different. So we are going to continue to live with the challenges, with the problems. Um, they don't really change. The only thing that can really change is how we are facing these problems. And so it can be a new and a happier year because we are more empowered, because we are more resourceful to face life. And that's really what we should be wishing one another and meaning behind these words. And today, I want to talk about the role that the mind plays, especially in the beginning of a new year. A lot of us do have the habit of looking back and doing an evaluation of what the previous year was and setting goals moving forward, which is really outstanding, because everything that we do and everything that we accomplish is started one day in our minds. It was a thought, it was an intention, and that is the beginning of everything. How is the pace that I am talking? Good for whoever is reading, because when you read a manual, it's very complicated for the translation. I was checking on that. So I'm trying to speak calmly and clearly so this thing can pick up the right translation. Um, anyway, and a lot of times in the Spiritual Center, we will talk a lot about our limitations, our darkness, the things that we need to focus on and work on. But today, I really would like to talk about something that we talk less, which is our potentialities. So, in face of the new year, let's remember the immense resources that are available to us within us. And if we think about Jesus, he reminded us of that in so many different ways and passages. For instance, when he reminds us that we are gods and we could do anything and everything that he did and even more, or when he reminds us of our essence and he talks to us, reminding that we are the salt of earth and the light of the world. He's also going to give us a north when he sets for us the direction that we should pursue in building a new reality for ourselves. So he's going to indicate that all the answers and all the work is within. So he will remind us of that when he talks about the kingdom of heaven, which is this state of happiness and harmony that we seek to acquire within ourselves in all ways that he brings up the idea of the kingdom of heaven. It's always within. So he will talk about this thing. He talks about the pearl that is in the oyster. He talks about the treasure that is in the field. He talks about the fish in the water. So it's always in, it's always within. And so it's important that we remember, because we don't often remember, that we have all these divine potentialities within ourselves. Many times we don't remember that. We are disconnected from the words of Jesus. And we spiritists and spiritualists, we think of ourselves in the context of our smallness, which indeed we are small, but our interpretation is always very critical and sometimes destructive and not very helpful, because we think of this smallness as something that is also unworthy. And so, yes, we are small, but we are divine. We cannot dissociate these two ideas. Yes, we are small, relatively speaking, but we are heirs of the universe. We are children of God. So there is a lot that we can do. And so at the beginning of a new year, it's always good to ask ourselves some questions. So, for instance, how much time are we devoting to remember the words of Jesus? We should repeat them every day as a motto. At the beginning of each day, we should begin our days by reconnecting to our true nature. So we can start our day by saying, I am a child of God. And I love sometimes to bring the image of Jesus in my mind as if I'm seeing him and he's telling me, reminding me of my potential, of my abilities. Because again, a lot of times what takes over our minds is guilt, is shame, is unworthiness. So we have to be our best friends, and if someone comes to us with a problem, we always have kind and generous words to that person. But for some reason, we are not so generous towards ourselves. So start the new year bringing in some generosity into your own lives and reminding ourselves of the beauty and the potentials of who we are. When we study Andrea Lewis, we learn that our mind is made of 3 different levels. You have the top level, which is the higher level, which is where we connect with our higher purposes, our ideals. We have the middle level, which is the present moment, and where we are making our day-to-day decisions and acting. And then he refers to the basement. The basement is where we bring our past experience. So future, present, past, our past experience, our archives. So yes, our mistakes, our learning, but also in this place that is is not so reachable, the unconscious, we have all our potentialities, all the goodness, all the light is also in there. So it's important that we remember that and that we use our thoughts to activate, to reach and to activate these potentialities. They are dormant within each one of us. So in order to do that and to build our present reality into something that we want it to become, we have two very potential tools. One of them is thought, and the other one is will. So, to study a little bit about thought and will, we are going to be using the works of Leon Denis. So, if you like these concepts, Denis has many chapters in different books where he talks about the power of the will and the power of thoughts and the discipline of thoughts and how to achieve that. But he will define thought as a creative energy, as an agent of transformation, and a lever for evolution. So, just a quick reminder how this thought works. When we think, when we have a thought, this thought will be projected. It's an energy. It's projected into the universe, into the cosmic fluid. Once it's out there, it will take a direction. It may ascend, descend, right, take a left, take a right, depending on our intent behind that thought. So it takes a direction, and then it enters in communion with other minds that have similar vibration and similar ideas. And so it enters in communion, and then it returns to us with that added energy from other minds. Why is this so important, and how do we understand this very easily? Every time I talk about thoughts, I like to give this example because everybody understands it. Facebook, you do a posting. That means that you had an idea and you posted, you imprinted that thought into the web, into the Facebook world, or would be the cosmic fluid. You built an idea that now is concrete over there. Now, the people, there will be many, many people, usually the people who are in Facebook are your friends, not your enemies. So a lot of them are going to like your idea. So they're going to give you a like. And some people are going to add comments to that thought, adding, corroborating, strengthening whatever you put there in first place. And you will be checking on that. How many likes do I have? How many comments do I have? And so, therefore, that thought that was initially put out there, right? Now, when you go to check, your page comes back to you, added with 170 likes and another 30 comments. So, let's see if this thing stays on. And so, that is exactly how it works. I think it's a very easy way to understand, which brings the next question. What is it that you are projecting? What is it that you are putting out there? Because you can be sure it's coming back to you with a heavier load. So if your posting was positive, if you're posting with your mind positive things, you are also receiving with added positivity. But if you are posting negative things, then you are setting that up for yourself and for your life. So that is very important. And perhaps many of you kind of know that, but we forget, don't we? I mean, we don't pay attention to our thoughts in the way that we actually should. But most importantly is that before our thoughts go out there and create things, they travel inwards. So the very first thing that is affected when you think is yourself, because your spiritual body, your perispirit, is also made of cosmic fluid. So the cosmic fluid, the energy of the universe that we are immersed, is very, very sensitive to thoughts. So the same way that it creates outside, what is one very well-known creation of our thoughts um, that we know to be created? Um, so the umbral, for example, the lower zones, right? The lower zones, they are not real. They have a temporary existence. They are simply a projection of the lower state of our own minds. As long as there are minds who knew better and chose to do differently than what they knew, and they are loaded with guilt and regret, there will be lower zones, because the lower zone is nothing more and nothing less than the fluid that is mirroring our inner state. There will be one day where we will no longer find humans who are in such a level of guilt. And therefore, all these constructions, at least for our planet, will no longer have its place, because they are simply a reflection of where we are temporarily. So, the same way that we create lower zones um, outside, we create diseases and illnesses inside. Because when I think something negative, the, the thought is created, and each thought has quality, has density, has a vibratory level that is associated with the quality of the emotion that is connected with that thought. So if my thought is a mean thought, and we have plenty of those, then it is the perispirit is being influenced by that toxic thought. So if I want um, something bad to someone, and I project that towards that person, before it gets to the person, it has already intoxicated myself. So if you don't feel motivated to not have mean thoughts towards others because of the other, do so for yourself. Because again, you are the very first person who is affected by your thoughts. This is very easy to understand. If you see someone or something that causes fear, fear is an emotion, your heart is going to respond by accelerating, because there is a very tight connection between our thoughts, our emotions, and our physical body, which is which happens because the perispirit translates that emotion to the physical body. So far, good? Clear, right? So the same way that I see something, I think this is a dangerous situation. That was the thought. I am afraid. That is the feeling. Then my body now is responding to that. It happens all the times for everything that we think, because all thoughts are loaded with a certain emotion, whether we realize that or not. Therefore, the importance of, in the new year, when we are like pumped for change, that we are ready to make different commitments, that we remember those things. Each one of us carries our own mental dwelling. Those are the words of the Spirit Emmanuel. He talks about our mental dwelling. So we have two houses. We have our home where we live, and we have this home here. So for the new year, perhaps it would be a good idea for us to consider taking care of this home as good as we do of our home, which we make sure to clean the home, hopefully every day or every week. For some of us, We like to put flowers. We like to make it nice. We like to open the windows when it's so nice the weather outside so the breeze can come in. And we need to remember to do the same thing with our mental dwelling. Our mental dwelling is made of, when we incarnate, we bring already our dwelling with more brightness or more mist, depending on our past experiences. And then to this dwelling that we incarnate with, we have the contribution of our daily thoughts and choices. We can make it better, right? We can protect our minds. I always tell people, when you leave your house, hopefully you lock the door. Although some of us don't. But in general, people lock the door of their house. Your mind is also your house, and you should lock the door. So not any person or any thought can come in at will, right? And I like to remind people, by the way, you have the key, but the key only works if you actually put it on the door and you lock it. So this is something important as we go into the new year, to remember that you have power over your mind. You can lock the door when you realize something is not going to add to your life. Some things that happens to us, they add, they bring more life, they energize us. Some things that happens to us, or some thoughts, they subtract from our energy, from our vitality. So a simple observation, it's not judgmental. You can ask yourself, are the thoughts that I'm having adding to my life? Am I feeling more energized, or is this taking away my vital energy? And then if it is, one example of thought that often takes away our energy, concerns, right? Preoccupations. Preoccupations drain us. So we can take notice, oh my God, look how preoccupied I am, right? And then there are some strategies that we can use in order to decrease the preoccupation. Many people in America and everywhere don't sleep at night unless they take a medication, because they cannot calm their minds, right? Because there's so much worry. There are many reasons, but a lot of times there's so many worries, right? And so sometimes simple exercises such as breathing, breathing for a few minutes and repeating to yourself, right? I breathe out all my concerns, and I breathe in, trusting God, and practicing surrender. So it's an exercise that we can do with the mind, trusting God, giving to God, right? Our concerns, and helping to cleanse and to calm the mind and also the heart. Very well. So we talk about how our thoughts will affect our perispirit, and I talk about the thoughts being a motor, a lever. So it can work like a magnet. So for example, when I wake up every day with eager to live, and that is my mindset. And if I go on my day in this mindset of gratitude for life, of eagerness for life, attracts thought has a magnetic power. It attracts to us vital fluids with our own minds. But it's also a principle of evolution. So depending on how I set my thoughts, it will put our internal potentials that I was talking about into motion. I can use my thoughts to activate my internal potentials, the God that lies within me. And like I said, it can also change the nature of the perispirit or the fluidic body. So, for example, if I raise my level of vibration through uplifting readings, through prayer, through meditation, through positivity, um, through a life that is lived um, with the commitment and the effort to fulfill the law of love, right? So if that is my mindset, little by little, my perispirit starts to change its constitution in response to the level of my thought that not only is higher, but each day and each time I can maintain that level of vibration for longer periods of time. So the perispirit is very sensitive. A lot of times we say, when I discarnate, I want to be in a good place. All spiritists wants to go to Nosso Lar, to Astral City, or some similar type of cities in the spiritual plane. Um, well, we always have to think that now here is time to pack properly for wherever you want to go. So again, if you go into the cold, thank God we're in Florida at this moment, right? You will need heavy duty coats because it's freezing up there, right? Down here, I'm always cold, but you know, outside when I'm working on my yard, I am with my flip flops and shorts. Um, so I like to think, and this is my thinking, that the more elevated spiritual zones are sunny like Florida, right? It's paradise. And if that is the case, you need very little clothing, okay? So that means that we need to work so that our perispirit is light. It's light. It cannot be heavy. It cannot be coated with attachment, with feelings that keep us grounded, because those feelings and those attachments and the anger and the resentment and the guilt and the jealousy and all the passions that Kardec talks about, they shackle us. And so there is no possibility of ascension when you are so coated with all those feelings and sensations. So the work is to, little by little, remove those layers. And we can do that with our thoughts. So we set our thoughts for a life. Doesn't need to be perfect. We also need to be good and generous in setting for ourselves realistic goals, right? But what is it that is within my reach to do right now? And by setting an intent, and I love to set intents. I do yoga once a week, and I loved when the woman says in the beginning of the yoga, let's set the intent for your practice today. And I love that, because as I'm doing it and the intent has been set, a lot of times feelings will emerge related to that intent that was set in the beginning. Same thing for us. Which one of you set up an intent at the beginning of your days? It takes one moment, right? So my routine is I get up at 5 and I take my shower, which usually I try to pay attention to my thoughts, because whatever is your state of mind during the day, it will also be during the night. And when we first wake up, it's really good to pay attention to your thoughts, because a lot of times it is in the early hours of the day when you are returning to the body that you will have flashes and intuitions of what you did during your sleeping hours. Because when you are so resolved and committed to accomplish something, you will work towards that when you are in the body awake and also outside of the body. So I wake up at 5, I take my shower, I pay attention to my thoughts. A lot of times, if I'm going to do a talk, something comes to my mind. And then I sit to have my breakfast and I open a page and I read it while I'm having my cup of coffee. And that helps set the tone for the day. Now, how many hours does that stick? It varies, right? So a good practice would be at lunchtime, read the same page again, because we are so inefficient in holding our thoughts, and there is so much going on, and I feel like, in a way, each day more and more distracted because of the pace of life, the pace of information. Our thoughts have what I call a popcorn effect. They're popping everywhere and don't ever stop in anything. And we'll talk a little bit about that if I have time. So setting the intent is something really important. And so we can, with our thoughts, change the nature kind of our garment, so to speak, in preparation for our future. And a lot of times, when our thoughts are again kept in a direction and with consistency, then you will tell to us that it's also, if we have, for example, some energy that is negative in our energetic body, but now we are changing our frequency and our vibration, that energy is no longer compatible. So a lot of times we can undo certain knots or blockage energetic, because you know that every single physical symptom starts in the perispirit, right? So a lot of times we are already ill and we don't know. The illness is established at the energy level but has not yet manifested in the physical body. But if we commit to do this mental hygiene and to pay attention to the quality of our thoughts and to do our inner work, a lot of times we are able to undo some of those conditions. And this is really how passes work, and people who heal themselves from certain conditions, a lot of times is their thought, is their will that is actually creating a new environment within themselves. We know that this does not always happen, because despite of the work that we do, we also bring some spiritual necessities that sometimes it is imperative for us to go through the process of the disease in order to achieve a deeper level of healing. But Leon Denis is going to say we can accomplish everything in the psychic domain. No force remains sterile when exercised with constancy in view of achieving an established goal. I love this sentence. We can accomplish everything. Everything. Now, the moment we doubt, we weaken the system. Right? So, doubt works against us. But anything and everything, you have to keep also in mind timing. Anything and everything in God's time, right? Because sometimes you'll say, oh, I've been working on this and nothing has happened. not true, nothing that you can see, but a lot is happening. A lot happens that we don't capture necessarily. What cannot happen is doubt, is fear, because fear that paralyzes. We cannot avoid fear. We all have fear, but we have to use our thoughts and say to ourselves, I'm going to go forward with my fear, right? So you can use your thought to choose to go forward despite of the fear. And we have some sustaining forces that really help us a lot, which are trust and optimism. Um, those are powerful forces that work together with our thought in creating this optimal environment for us to live in the year to come. Uh, until what time do I have to talk? To talk? No, usually 7. Perfect. No, 15 more minutes. That's good. No, no, that's too long. No, 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 no. That's the guy's gonna get super tired. So, and I can talk forever, as you know. But so trust and optimism. I really like to talk about those two forces that we need to cultivate within ourselves, right? Um, trust is a hard one. So, like right now, my kids are 16 and 17, right? Delicious age, let's put it this way. And, yes. Yeah, can you believe it? 16 and 17. And so, for me, it has been an incredible exercise of surrendering because you realize that you are not as powerful as you thought you were, that you can do as much as you thought you could. And many days I will say to myself and to God, I'm doing all that I can, but from here on, at this age, I entrust them to you, right? It's an exercise. It's an important exercise because when we want to stay in control of everything, then there will be a lot of suffering and a lot of guilt and many other feelings that make life very difficult. So it's an exercise. And what Spiritism does for us is really amazing because um, Spiritism will not remove any of the obstacles and any of the difficulties, but it will raise our resistance. It will make us resilient in face of the problems, in face of the difficulties, because it provides us with a high vision. It provides with a deep understanding of life. And most importantly, it provides us with a purpose. Whoever has a purpose has a strength to live. People, they unfortunately will lose their lives a lot of times because they have lost a sense of purpose. So as long as you have purpose and understanding, you have strength. It doesn't mean that in the year that is coming, there won't be moments where you're going to feel very tired and you're going to feel like giving up. I personally had a moment last year where I had a very deep conversation with God and I said, you got to take it easy, right? Because I don't know if I can take this. It just seems to be so much bigger than me. I really don't know if I have the resources to manage this situation, right? So I always like to share these moments because this is it. This is us. We will have, if you think that because you are spiritist, you will not have these moments, the moment you have it, you feel bad. The moment you have it, you crucify yourself. And yet, it's impossible not to have these moments because life is rough, okay? We are here in a plan of trials and expiations. It's not like, it's not pretty. There's a lot of blessings, right? But there will be moments where we're going to be just that, humans. But if you have if you have spiritism in your life, and most importantly, if spiritism is in you, because a lot of times spiritism is part of our lives, but it's not necessarily in us, then you say to yourself, look, I'm having a moment here, right? That is a time where you call a friend, where you speak to someone who you trust, right? That you forgive yourself, because it is the love and the compassion towards yourself that's going to help you to wake up the next day and reconnect with the trust and reconnect with everything that you know and say, hey, yesterday I had a moment, right? But, you know, God never makes mistakes in terms of sending someone into our lives, right? And if this person is in my life, is because I have something to offer and I'm going to do my best. And with my kids, it's funny because a friend of mine reminded me something that it was so useful to me. I like to share with people. He said, look, you survive your parents. So make no mistake, your children will survive you. And that brought me so much relief because true, right? So I like to think that as we go from one generation to another, we're doing a little better job than our parents, just in the sense that we're evolving. There's a different understanding of psychology, of education, you know, and our parents were educated by their parents, and so they had their traumas and their wounds and their difficulties. So anyway, I like to share these because all of those things are thoughts that we can bring in to help us to better face and to be more resourceful with our lives. Um, Again, we are in a moment where uh, very few of us actually think for themselves, and it's really interesting because Leon Denis, way before this time of technology, of internet and all those things in the 1800s, he would say something like, we live an intellectual anemia caused by the scarcity of serious subjects and in-depth studies. And that was Denis, so I don't know what he would say today, like in the 1800s. So today, we don't think for ourselves. I mean, we live in a culture that we are followers. We're following something or somebody. And when we say something, it's rarely ever purely our thought. It's heavily influenced by social media. And you know that social media, if you are, just an example, if you're a Democrat and you like something that is Democrat, all you're going to get is Democrat. And if you're a Republican and like something, all you're going to get is Republican. So social media creates these very extremes. So I'm not going to tell you go into politics, but I have friends that I keep in my social media who are opposite of me. And I don't eliminate them. I don't like what I see, but I want to see because they are good people. They are people that work with me. They are people that I see their goodness. I see all that they do. And so I'm curious to understand their thinking. Because in the world that we live in, there is no one pure and not any thought or person is. So we have to open ourselves and pay attention to what are we doing, right? Are we following our own studies? And then he talks about something that's really interesting because he talks about sometimes we read a lot, but it's actually better to read a little less, but with more pauses. So what he's really suggesting is that it's not how much you read, is how much thinking you're doing while you're reading. So we can read Kardec a lot. Some people say, oh, I read Kardec many times, the Spirit's book 10 times. Okay, maybe someone read two, but in each question, the person asks him or herself, how does this apply to me? That's a different reading. Because when we read and we comment as if the spirits had written those words to somebody else. But everything and anything that's written in the codification was written for you and for me. So when we read it, we need to read and we need to ask ourselves for every single thing that we see, how does this apply to me? So sometimes it's not how much we're reading, but how we are reading. And so there are a few things that Denis will recommend for us in terms of thought and using our will to move our thoughts, to persist on what, because it's not only about thinking, but it's about thinking and sustaining the thought, right? So he talks about meditation on elevated subjects, carefully choosing our readings, to monitor and to discipline our thoughts. What is it that I'm thinking, right? I'll tell you what, one of my weaknesses, right, is those Netflix series or any series for that matter. I was telling someone, and there's one, and I like suspense and crime, and sometimes I watch stuff that is traffic related, drug related, and there's some violence and stuff like that. And I'm like, and I'm watching a series now that has 10 seasons, and each season has 20 episodes. I'm telling you, and I'm 100% hooked on that, right? And my work is very mental. I sit down and I think the entire day. And so during lunchtime, sometimes okay, I'm going to take a 20 minutes break and I don't want to think of anything. And I put that thing and I watch that for 20 minutes. And so, but I felt very guilty for a long time because I was like, what am I feeding my mind, right? But then I calculated and I think for most part, for most of my day, I spend with my thoughts where I think they need to be. I'm being altruistic in my work. Everything that I do, I'm thinking about how is my work benefiting the people that work for me? How can I make their lives better? When I come home, I'm doing my best with my kids, in my marriage, with my family. So it's okay. I mean, we are where we are. That is our humanity, right? So I share that again because I really wish a year of lightness. Everything's already so heavy and so dark outside and inside us. So we can also look at our humane, mundane things and it's not hurting anyone. And, you know, sometimes on Thursdays we have our mediumistic meeting. And so I say, well, today I'm not going to watch anything, so these images don't stay in my mind, right? So we do what we can, and that is okay. I think we need a lot more kindness for the new year towards ourselves. But just the fact that I'm observing and I ask myself, do these images stay in my mind? And they don't, because it's okay. So each one can evaluate. What is it that you're watching? What is it that you're feeding your mind with, right? How are you using this potentiality? Because when Leon Denis says to us that we can do anything, this is a potential that we bring within ourselves and that we use very little. So we can develop that and we can use our thoughts to go inwards. We can use our thoughts to explore the world inside of us, to travel inside. Not only to go to the darkness because we cannot change our limitations if we are not aware of them, but also to recognize that there is light. So I want to finish by reminding us that when we talk about God, we often think of a God that is out there. And God is out there. God is everywhere in nature, but we are nature. And so God is within us. And throughout the year, when you go through your hardships and your challenges, I also love this image of the sea. Sometimes we look at the sea, and on top of the sea, the surface of the sea is very agitated. But there is underneath a place where everything is still, deep inside. There is stillness and there's calmness. So use your thoughts to find within yourselves this place of stillness and calmness. Whenever it's necessary, remember that God is within you. And use your thoughts to calm yourself. You can put a classic music, you can take a deep breath, you can do a prayer, but let yourself feel your true nature. Let yourself reconnect with who you truly are. I love to think of this place of stillness, sacred. And the spirits will tell Kardec in the gospel that whenever you pray, go to the room and close the door. We have a room, a sanctuary within our own souls. So learn the way to this sanctuary. Learn the way to connect with God, because the resources, the strength is within you. And as much as possible, use your minds to keep those supportive forces going on in your new year. Trust, faith. Whoever has trust and whoever has faith has hope. And as long as we have hope, again, hope and purpose, we will get up as many times as necessary. Hope is perhaps the most important feeling that we can hold in our hearts. There is hope for everyone, for ourselves included. This, we're going to go one more minute, I already passed it, but this Thursday in our mediums group, I actually channel a spirit who came and gave a message, and he said that he was in a very, very deep, dark place, and that one day an angel showed up, and he was very perplexed with the presence of that spirit who he interpreted and understood to be an angel. And he said that the angel spoke to him because he never thought that he would get out of that place, or that he would be worth it of the visit of someone like that. And the angel reminded him that God is infinite mercy and love, and that no one, no matter how dark or deep place you are, is ever forgotten or ever left behind. So this God that sends angels lives within you. Get acquainted with it and have a wonderful new year. Thank you.